Good morning everybody, and welcome to day one of the 2-day paediatric first aid level 3 training. Bit of a mouthful, I know. Good morning everybody, and welcome. It's lovely to meet you all in person. Obviously we've been emailing and on the phone quite a lot, but it's much nicer to be able to meet you all face to face. So day one, brilliant, everyone's here on time, excellent. So we'll get started. We'll go through just a very brief introduction about myself and my first aid background, and then we'll go through what we're going to be doing in the next 2 days, what subjects we're going to be covering, and just a little bit about what I'm going to expect from you, a couple of assessments that we'll have to do on the second day in order for you to pass and obviously get your certificate. So, very brief bit about myself. Obviously my name's Hannah, as you can see I work for Daisy First Aid. I've been working for Daisy First Aid for about 6 months now. Before that I've been a police officer, so I've been a police officer in the Met for about 12 years, give or take some maternity leave that I've had here and there. So in the Metropolitan Police in London. So although I haven't got a medical background per se, obviously I haven't been a doctor or nurse or a paramedic, I've done quite a lot of first aid as a police officer, so from like your minor injuries, lots of cuts and bruises, etc., and a few more serious injuries, a few more serious burns, bleeds, and a few car accidents. So I might tell you a few stories as we go through the course, but obviously I'm sure you've got lots of stories to tell as well, especially working with children for a long time. Apart from being a police officer, I've got 2 children. I've got 2 little girls, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they keep me very busy. And again, as well as doing obviously first aid in work as a police officer, I've done quite a lot of first aid with my 2 children, so they've definitely kept me on my toes for that as well. A little bit about me, obviously. So Daisy First Aid, if you're not aware, it was founded by a fellow police officer, and there are now about 30 of us dotted around the country, quite a lot down south and around London, and then different places like Newcastle and Yorkshire and Wales as well, so lots of us around. And we obviously teach first aid, mostly paediatric first aid, to parents and carers, expecting parents, grandparents, children as well we teach, which is fantastic, and then people like yourselves, so your childminders and your teachers and your nannies. So we're teaching an array of different people. I say paediatric first aid, but although we centre, so we do an awful lot on babies and children, we also obviously cover adults, and then a lot of the first aid that we cover is going to encompass babies, children and adults as well. Okay. That's myself. Okay, so we'll chat a little bit about the course now. So obviously we're on the 2-day paediatric course, and the 2-day is for 12 hours. So we'll do 6 hours today, and then we'll do another 6 hours tomorrow. So obviously we're starting at 9 o'clock this morning, so after a break and a couple of other little breaks as we go along, we'll probably be done for about 3:30 this afternoon, so hopefully that suits everybody. And then that'll be the same for tomorrow, so 9 o'clock start and finish for 3:30 in the afternoon. So 9 o'clock start, we'll probably carry on for maybe an hour and a half or so, have another little break, and then we will have a bigger break for lunch, maybe half an hour or so, about 12:30, and again hopefully that suits people. There's a few places out and about that you can go and grab sandwiches or whatever you need. There be water and tea and coffee for you to help yourselves too, as we go through the day, and obviously it's quite useful if you drink lots of water, keep yourself hydrated. What else? Phones, no problem at all to have phones with you in the lesson. Just obviously if you can put it on vibrate, that'd be fantastic. If you can't, then if you need to make a phone call, just nip out of the class and come back when you're done. That's brilliant. Lunch breaks we've done, refreshments we've done, parking, obviously parking, I'm sure you've already found it outside. If you struggled this morning, let me know, and I can give you some other ideas of parking, and any details of train stations or cab fines, anything like that I can help you with. Toilets, a couple of toilets for you, just down the hall on the right hand side, or there's another toilet upstairs right in front of you. Again, please don't put your hand up or anything like that. If you need to go to the toilet, just go, it's no problem. Fire exits, in case there is a fire, or if there's no fire tests, hopefully today, but if there was, the fire exit is just out the front door here and at the area in front of the house. So if there was a fire alarm, then we just need to congregate outside there. Okay. As we go through the day, please ask any questions that you want to. Don't sit back and think, oh, you know, I don't want to ask that because I'm going to look really stupid. We've all had the saying that there's no such thing as a stupid question, and there really isn't. And the likelihood is, if you're thinking something in the class, then there will probably be at least one other person that's thinking exactly the same thing. And it's definitely worth just asking that question so we can hopefully all move on from it together, all understanding that particular subject before we go on. Okay. You've all been given one of our Daisy First Aid manuals, which is fantastic, and it's got everything that we're going to be going through in the course, which is really good as little aid memoir. So hopefully when we're doing the course you won't need to refer to it too much, as we'll be talking about it and discussing it. But obviously at the end of the class, you know, weeks, months down the line, it's quite handy to be able to just have a flick through whatever particular section you wanted to remind yourself on. So that's your first aid manual that obviously you can take away with you afterwards. Right, so now we'll just have a chat through what we're going to be learning in the 2 days. So today is obviously our day 1. So we were going to start with talking about first aid kits, which are obviously very, very important. The lady that runs Daisy First Aid has brought out her own first aid kit, which is great, and it's specifically for babies and children. And we'll go through what is ideally should be in a first aid kit, things that are absolute necessities and have to be in there, and other things that are ideal but we don't have to have in there. And we'll have a little discussion about all those kind of items. Once we've done that, we will go on to talking a little bit about action planning and surveying scenes. So if we were to turn up to something and there were more than one casualty, how we would deal with that. That'll be again probably quite a lot of discussion work, and we might do a bit of group work for that as well. Moving on from that, we will go on to the treatment of an unconscious person, and obviously leading on from that we'll do recovery position and CPR. That's quite a big subject. I know quite a few of you have done first aid in the past, so hopefully for you it will be a refresher, and things probably haven't changed a massive amount. But it's a really, really important subject to go through. So I'll talk you through it and go through any changes there might have been, and then after that there'll be lots and lots of opportunity to do lots of practical exercises. So we've got loads of mannequins. We've got our adult mannequins to do the practice with, and we've also got our baby mannequins to have a practice with. So we'll be able to spend lots and lots of time on that to make sure that you're happy with it. After we've done that, we will go through some choking, and again we'll just talk about it first of all, make sure that you're happy with what you would do, and then we'll have some practical demonstrations again with our adults and with our baby mannequins, so again you're completely happy with what you need to do if you have to. Following on from that, still on today, we will then talk about asthma, which again really, really important to cover because so many children now suffer from asthma, so really important subject. And then we will do we'll talk about head injuries, and we'll do a little exercise with that, and we'll go through different symptoms that there are for head injuries and see whether you think that they fit for the 3 different types of head injuries that there are. Hopefully that will be quite fun. And then the last couple of bits today that we'll go through is we'll go through seizures and talk about the different types of seizures and how we will deal with that. And then the last thing for the day is we will do how to deal with bleeds. So all different types of bleeding, obviously your more minor bleeds and then your more serious bleeds, and how we would deal with that. And again, we'll do a little bit of practical, so we've got lots of practice of that, so we'll have a go on each other, bandaging arms, legs, heads, and maybe we'll have a go with doing some slings again. I know some of it seems quite sort of easy and obvious, but even so it's quite useful to have a go so that you are happy with it and you're doing it right if you needed to use it. And I think particularly bleeds, it's probably quite likely that you will need to use it at some point. So that is the end for day one. Obviously quite a lot to fit in, so hopefully we'll get it all done. And then after that we will come back next week and we'll do day 2 of the training. Day 2 again, quite a lot to fit in. We'll start off doing burns. It's the first subject for day 2. We'll go through burns, the different types of burns and how we would deal and treat the burns. We will go on from that and talk about sprains, strains and fractures, talking a little bit about the differences between them and if we're able to recognise the differences between them and how we'll treat them. We'll talk about poisons, bites and stings, again how to deal with them and what we would need to do as first aiders to help. And the last bit of the last subject to cover is childhood conditions, so we're talking about measles, meningitis, croup, again quite a useful subject because some of them could be very common, chickenpox as well, it's quite useful to go through. So that's the subjects that we need to cover. On day 2, aside from the subjects, we'll also have to do a couple of assessments. Don't get stressed about them, there's nothing to worry about at all. We'll have done so much practice on day 1 and we'll have another little bit of practice on day 2. So when we get to do the practical assessments in the afternoon on the second day, you'll have nothing to worry about at all, don't worry. What we'll do is we will put you into pairs and then one pair will come into the room at the time. One person from the pair will come in room first of all. I will obviously tell them what's wrong with them and then the second person will come in and have to deal with whatever presents them. And then after that swap over and then the next 2 come in and obviously I'll be watching and assessing you to make sure that you deal with it appropriately. So that's your first assessment and the second assessment that you also need to do is the written assessment. Again, don't get panicked, you'll be absolutely fine, it'll be everything that we've covered in the 2 days. It will be a written assessment, so we'll do it in the classroom, it will be after the practical one in the afternoon. There will be 40 questions and you need to get 32 out of 40 to pass. Again, you'll have no problem whatsoever and I dare say you all get 40 out of 40. I've got absolute faith in you. So that's our 2 assessments. And aside from that, I'll obviously be assessing or continually assessing you as we go through the day. So on each section that we'll do, we're going to make sure that I'm happy that you understand and that you can deal with all the practical elements as we go through it as well. You need to pass both the written and the practical parts of the course in order to complete the course. And then when you complete the course, obviously I'm able to give you your lovely Daisy First Aid certificate, which will be valid for you for 3 years. And I'm sure that you all pass and you will all go away at the end of day 2 with your certificate. Okay. Right, the only couple of bits we need to go through now, a couple of forms that I need you to fill in. So the first one that I've got is the medical declaration form. I'll show you here. I know I've already emailed you and I've asked you, but obviously sometimes things come up, or you might have hurt yourself, hurt your back, or something in the meantime, so it's worth just writing down for me any medical issues that you might have. So I've just got your name, signature and any issues that you've got there. And then the other form that I need you to fill in is just so that I make sure I've got your name correctly, the spelling of your name correctly, got your email address, and just also the last time that you did first aid training and who that first aid training was with, if obviously you can remember. So I'll pass that all round and you can fill that in for me. Lovely, thank you. Health and safety considerations, there's not really in this room, there hopefully isn't anything that we need to be aware of. Obviously when we start doing the practicals, there's going to be mannequins over the floor, so when they're there, just be a little bit careful that we're not going to trip over anything. The blue ones are fairly brightly coloured, so we should be able to see them there clearly. If anything else happens as we're going along, then I'll obviously make you aware of them. Okay, so before we start, just wanted to do a very quick icebreaker exercise. I know not everybody likes doing them, but they are really, really useful. So what I'd like you to do, if you can, is just have a chat with your the person sitting next to you. Just find out their name, find out a little bit of background, where they're from, what they do work-wise, how long they've been doing it, and an interesting fact about themselves, if you can get one, and anything specifically that they'd like to get out of the course for the next 2 days. Lovely, thank you very much.